When we held our event last October, we followed up with a survey. So hopefully, and we actually had, I think, record survey responses, which was huge. You're gonna get another one today, don't worry. We asked everybody what kinds of programs and information you would find valuable, and marketing and social media was hands down. I think if anybody had something in common, they said we'd like to learn about that and get more resources from that regard. So today's program is a complete result of your feedback, of people that attended this event. So the session is going to focus on why social media is critical to business, and it's going to feature marketing experts, and followed up, we're going to have a wonderful interactive training session. How many are planning on staying for the training session? Wonderful, I think about 2/3, so hopefully you guys are going to get a lot out of this morning. It's going to be a great day. So with that, you're gonna learn all kinds of things today about harnessing the power of social media, but I am going to now hand it over to get this panel discussion kicked off. And Rachel Pearson, who's been with Experience Scottsdale, you would never know it. I mean, she must have started when she was 12. She's been there about 17 years or more, she just told me this morning. And she is the Vice President of Community and Government Affairs. And she is here to introduce our panel, to kick off a little bit about the topic, and then facilitate a Q&A. So without any more waiting, I'm gonna get Rachel right up here. Okay.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate you being here, and I'm excited to be up here to talk to you about social media. We all know how prolific it is, and so today it's exciting to be a part of this panel discussion to really talk about why social media is so important to your business. If you're already doing social media, I think you're going to take some great tips about ways that you can even better leverage your time within social media. And if you have not yet joined social media, I think you're going to get some good ideas of how to get started this morning. So these are some of the amazing social media experts that you are going to hear from today, and we'll be introducing them shortly. But before we get to that, I just want to start with some basic information about social media. At its core, social media is really about the use of technology. It's about sharing ideas and expressing oneself through an online network. That's really all we're talking about with social media. And how prolific is it? Over 170 million Americans are using social media, 69% of all American adults. So it is certainly something that is not going away anytime soon. So if you have not joined social media, this is certainly the time to do it. We all hear about a lot of different social media platforms that are out there, and one of the things that you'll get to hear a little bit from our experts about today is how do you decide which one of these platforms? For most people, you don't have the time or the resources to do all of these, so you're going to hear a little bit about how to decide which one is best for you. But the statistics show, this is based upon stats from last November, Facebook is certainly leading the pack, followed by Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, and Snapchat. And in terms of who is using social media, we know that younger generations have sort of been born used to just being on social media. It's just sort of part of their daily lives. But really what this chart is showing is that regardless of the age range that you are in or that your customers are in, they are using social media as well. And that interest is continuing to increase over time. So with that, I'd like to introduce our two panelists and ask them, as I'm introducing them, to please come up and join us at the panel. First, we have Michelle Olson, who you've already seen a little bit through her incredible video with the Chamber and Economic Development team from the city. Michelle has spent most of her 31 years in public relations in some sort of consulting capacity. She's done that with mid-sized firms and even really large integrated advertising firms. With her leadership, the Finger Paint Scottsdale team remains at the forefront of changing social media and interactive platforms, integrating content marketing, brand journalism, social media, and other online initiatives into all of her PR campaigns and programs. She's an active user of social media herself on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, as well as some lesser known sites, and maybe she'll tell us more about those later, to stay in contact with all of her friends and colleagues and all of her various interests that she has as well. Our second panelist is Anna Ebert. She is co-founder and lead trainer at Funnel Cake Social Media, and she is on a personal mission to combine her passion for marketing and small business to help those businesses succeed by providing them with social media education. Since 2008, Anna has been lucky to help a variety of companies implement their social media changes and strategies. At Funnel Cake's their head trainer, she'll run into her in various classes, networking around town, and testing new social media features on their own social media accounts. And when she's not teaching social media, you'll find Anna traveling, reading, or doing yoga, and of course documenting all of that on Instagram. So with that, thank you ladies, and please join me in welcoming them. So to get started this morning, I have a question for both of you. Again, I'm going to kind of start a little basic and just get an understanding from you as to why social media is so important to business and what some of the biggest benefits are. So if somebody is not yet utilizing social media, why should they be jumping in? Michelle, why don't we start with you?
Okay, I first want to start by saying my company and I have been doing social media since 2007, and Abby Fink is here, and I just have to tell a quick story. When we went to a conference in Cabo, where a guy spoke, I'm not going to mention his name because I think he's been indicted on sexual harassment, but he spoke about Twitter, and he showed a big map of the world, and he sat here and took a picture of us, and then he did something with his phone, and then all these little birds started chirping everywhere on this world map, and Abby and I sat there going, oh my God, our world has just changed. Imagine what this means for businesses and for public relations in general, which is our discipline. And from that moment, we became bloggers and Twitter and Facebook and everything. And then we also became snake oil salesmen trying to convince businesses that social media was the way to get the news out about their products and their businesses. And that wasn't popular in 2007, and you might even agree with that. 2008 was a little bit more popular, around October, when all the reporters started being fired because of the recession, and PR people in general needed a way to get news out directly to their audiences. So this isn't new, we're 10 years into this. And if you haven't jumped on board, this isn't a shaming place. We're excited that you're here, and it's changed tenfold since then. We had 1 or 2 platforms then. We actively manage 9 or 10 platforms now for our clients, and I'm sure Anna does way more than that because that's their specialty. But businesses, if I can just kind of sum it up with a couple of things, it's the new word of mouth. It's where you can put your information out there and really convince your customers and your followers that this is a good thing, and you can share it, and it's just it's an amplifier. So if you you control the message. So in media relations, often we don't get to control the message. The reporter really does that for us. In social media, we can control it and put it out there. What we can't control, and we'll talk a little bit about customer service, is how people respond to that message. And they respond to it immediately, within seconds sometimes. And if it's not a popular thing that you're putting out there, you'll know immediately. And I think that's where some of the fear is with small businesses in particular, and some really big businesses. We work a lot in the pharmaceutical space, and our clients are deathly afraid of putting anything out on social and having to, 1, respond to it and the FDA not being happy about that response, or 2, being unable to respond to it, especially if it's a healthcare thing. But we'll talk a little bit about customer service as a passion of ours in reputation management, in being able to just get right into your customer and have a one-to-one with them. Sometimes it's good, and sometimes they're angry. And social has as you know, has brought a lot of anger out. There's some anonymity behind the keyboard, unfortunately, and sometimes that's good, and sometimes it's not. So, and being able to promote, and I'm not going to go through the whole list of them because we kind of want to do this back and forth thing, but being able to really control what you're telling your customer and get directly to your customer and from a business use, I think, is one of the biggest benefits of social media.
Yeah, absolutely, I would agree, and I have to go back anecdotally as well, because I was in a scenario when I first moved to the Valley, and I had started on the marketing team, and they said, what is this Facebook? And this was in 2008, and I was also in a pharmaceutical space. And they said, can you do this Facebook? You just came from college, you can do this for a business. And I said, okay, I'll give this a shot, because back then it was kind of uncharted territory. And like Michelle said, definitely a different playing field in the medical and pharmaceutical space at that time, because there wasn't as much on the regulation side. Fast forward to today, and now we've got all sorts of regulations within industries. But agreeing with what Michelle said, like there's so much opportunity on social media just to reach your customers, whether they're existing customers, prospective, but really to paint the story of your business and share what sets you apart, what's that personality. And a big thing too, like you were saying with reputation, a lot of times if you're choosing not to be on social media, that doesn't mean people aren't talking about you there or aren't posting about you. So being there is an opportunity to be part of that conversation and also help guide it a little bit and at least contribute so that you're not turning a blind eye to maybe what is actually being said about you in the online space.
Wonderful, thank you. And another question for you, if you're a small business and you don't have a website, should you jump into social media anyhow? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I actually work a lot with startups, and in that space, as we start going through that product development, a lot of times they don't have a website yet, but they've got this incredible journey that they can be documenting along the way. And I've seen that too with just established brick and mortar businesses. Even a couple actually in downtown Scottsdale, I've seen before their doors even open, they have thousands of followers on their social media accounts before they even have a website necessarily. And I think there's a lot of power to that because you can have an established following before you even open the doors. It's also true, depending on what your budget is, if you don't have the resources right now to have a robust website, social media can be a little bit of I don't want to say a band-aid in that situation, but you do get some features that can still help you, especially on Facebook, because there's so many fields on there that mimic some of the information you might have on a website. The downside to that is you don't get that traffic back to your own website, so to speak, and you don't get some of that rich data that the social media sites provide then.
Michelle, we talked before about all the platforms that are out there now, and Facebook certainly is leading the pack, but there's so many to choose from. How does a business decide which ones to jump into and which ones not to worry about when they're getting started? Or even if they're already on one, how do they decide if they should add it anymore?
That's an excellent question, and I really think as many of you who can stay later, please stay, because Jenny's going to talk a lot about how to pick the platform that's right for you depending on your business. We look at demographically, sometimes there's some variance between who uses which platforms. It's changing. You've probably seen the memes that go around that say Facebook is for old people, when Facebook before was for college students, and that Instagram is where it's at, or Snapchat, and that's a dual there for those folks. It really depends on the audience that you're trying to reach and the story that you're trying to tell. So some of the stories that you may want to tell have a lot of rich video where you want a long form video. And don't shoot me for this, and those of you who understand social, but we put out a 9-minute video in October, and that 9-minute video has been absolutely phenomenally successful, but it's only because we put it out in a platform that could be managed. We also syndicated it, but we targeted specifically the audiences we wanted to see it. So it didn't probably go to you. It was on abuse deterrent opioids. Exciting and sexy, huh? But a highly regulated space in pharmaceutical. But the video we targeted to physicians, to advocacy groups, to addiction specialists, to pain specialists, and that kind of thing. So we knew that the advocacy groups are really active on Facebook. They're not active on Instagram. They're not active on Snapchat. And Twitter is kind of where we put broad-based news. We're trying to get news coverage often, and all of the greatest and some not so great news channels are active on Twitter. And so we want to make sure that we're tagging them and they're looking at us. We're trying to follow back and forth so that we can get our news that we are managing now turned into news that is again amplified this time by traditional media coverage. So it's kind of where PR and social kind of cross, but it really helps to understand who you're trying to reach so that you're not just doing social for the sake of social, because it's super time consuming. In Twitter, you need to be on Twitter. I always had a rule with my staff in 2008, and now it's like 5 a day at least, 5 times a day on Twitter, because it's consumable and then it's forgotten about. Then you can go back through your feed, but people don't, because it's changing so quickly, and depending on the tool you use to help manage your Twitter, it may be cumbersome to go back into history to see what's being tweeted. So Facebook is a little bit easier than that, Instagram is a little bit easier than that, and there are varying lengths of the the size of the videos that you can post on different platforms. So Jenny's going to go through all that, thank goodness, because it's really detailed and you want to take notes for that one. But did you have anything to add, Anna?
When I talk about this, I liken it to the Cheesecake Factory menu, not because I'm promoting the Cheesecake Factory, but when I'm working with small businesses, it really is. It's like someone's handed you this big, thick menu, and you're super excited at first because you're like, oh, I want all the things. I'll take, my appetizer, my several desserts. And it's that overwhelm when you get it all and you're like, I've got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all these things, and then it's that overwhelm of, I can't manage it, it's not sustainable. It's not where my audience is. So think of it that way. Just order something to start small and you can keep adding on too. So it's not, in a lot of industries, especially with small businesses, you don't have to order it all in one day. Do something, start small, get the hang of it, see how the environment is there, what your audience is responding to, and then start adding pieces or taking away pieces. Because, I love, ordering a lot of cheesecake at the Cheesecake Factory, but let's be honest, when you get it, you're like, what is this big mistake I just made?
That's great advice, thank you. With a lot of small businesses too, you also don't have a large staff. So who is best to manage social media, even if you are just starting out with your first social media account on one of these platforms, or are you better off outsourcing it? You might be a little biased, the two of you, since both of your companies do that, but what do you recommend for small businesses?
Sure, all right. I'm actually a little bit biased because I teach more education, so I'm more about empowering a small business to do their own social media as much as I love doing it myself. So with that being said, I've worked with businesses who it's the receptionist managing the social media, it's the owner of the company, it's a product manager, so it really varies. And I would say whether it's that person or it's your 20-year-old intern, at the end of the day, it really comes down to, does the person know how to manage social media and do they know how to do it for a business? Because social media for a business is very different than I know how to Snapchat personally, or I know how to Instagram, great boomerangs, things like that. So whoever it is, just make sure they're supported and they have the education that's there to help you be successful in the goals that you have for your business on social media. And as far as outsourcing, I'd say there's definitely a time and place. It depends on the complexity of your campaigns, the different types of product launches you might have. A new business opening is certainly a bigger thing. So I think it just depends on who you have in-house, what the reality is of someone being able to manage it day to day, and what your budget is. Because when it comes down to it, it is going to be an investment. You want to ask the right questions, and you want to know what you're getting out of it, but you also want to know that you're going to pay for it, just because you get what you pay for.
I think that's also one of the big changes from when we started this journey 10 years ago to now is social media used to be free. It really did. Even if you hired an agency to do it, we wrapped it into our PR offering because in our shop it was necessary. We didn't want to do just the traditional outreach without amplifying that to our audiences. Now you have to put a budget behind it, and not necessarily to hire somebody, but to pay for the advertising. So, or boosting posts, or doing social ads, or shareables, or something to get in front of a larger audience. And that can vary from $10-20 a month to $5,000-10,000 a month for some of our clients. But in terms of staffing, it's nice to have somebody that kind of understands what's important in your business so that you know what should be amplified and what shouldn't. So what should you boost? Let's not boost a personnel announcement unless you've got a new CEO. Let's really focus on the news that you want to put some money behind, and decide too if you are that person has the wherewithal to understand, okay, we have like 4 people, we've got really awesome content, but we've got 4 people following us. We might want to do a likes campaign, and then understanding how to do that. And that's when it's good we do a lot of education too, because our clients vary from a small business to a large corporation, and the corporation, we might have 4 people on that account doing social, and on a small business, we may just have a social 101 and give them the tools and set it all up and skin the pages and make it look like their brand, and then go, here, have fun, here's your guiding. Or we may do a posting plan monthly for them so that their marketing messages are true and they can do all the social stuff, the engagement, the posting the photos. I did one, you are all on Facebook already, shocking, probably on her account too, this morning, and tagging and just making sure that real-time stuff is getting out where as an agency, we're not there. I'm not in Idaho, I'm not in New York, I'm not in Boston where some of our clients are, so I need to rely on them to do some of that real engagement and getting the photography, because one thing that's really important is the visual story is ever increasing in importance. Videos and photos. There's a thing that goes around that's copy and paste. We don't believe anybody reads just printed posts anymore. So put this into your copy and paste it into your Facebook if you believe that it's still important, and tell everybody how you met me or some silly thing like that. I don't do those; those are silly. But it's true. You just really need to have that visual. So I think in terms of going back to your question, Rachel, there's so many avenues. We could be here all day. The staffing person, you'll know when it's time to bring in. If you don't know how to do it, hire somebody to teach you. Try to do it yourselves, because it's going to be a lot more authentic. And then you'll know when it's time to broaden that, if it's taking too much time, because the person you put in charge of it needs to have time and be dedicated. And if you walk past their desk or their area, or they're on their phone, don't shame them for that. They're working. If you see Facebook on their, if it's your page, if it's like, a celebrity page or something, that's probably just a second distraction, because there are a lot of distractions on social media too. So just make sure that the person you put in charge has time to do it.
I recommend, especially for businesses in downtown Scottsdale, that they should be focused on putting out there what kind of messaging.
I recommend anything that's important to your business. So where it's public facing, not your internal kind of stuff, but when it's going to have an impact on your customers. If you did get a new CEO, build a story around that person. Don't just post a press release or, hey, we got a new CEO, here's his picture. Do a video with him, a quick one, like, what does this position mean to you? What is the company? Why did you take this job? Just fun things. And then, hobbies, or why they like where they're at in terms of Scottsdale. What I loved about the video thing is, like, I wanted to talk about Scottsdale in that video, like the whole thing. And Mark kept saying, you need to talk about finger paint. I'm like, I don't want to talk about finger paint. I love Scottsdale. So if you tie it into where you are and just something that's going to be shareable, because you want the content that you're doing to be passed along to the next person, because that's really the beauty in social, is that it's shareable. You want somebody to pass it along. You want somebody to go, hey, did you see this, and send a link. You want them to link back to your website if you have one. And then you want to track that too. So content that is interesting and engaging. People love pictures of food. Sadly, it's still this food porn thing that's going on. So if you have a restaurant, coffee shop, I loved your video, by the way, and I was like, I love Sip. I go there all the time. I've never been there for a beer, though. I just go for coffee. But showing people in action enjoying your product, and not always being self-serving. So the self-serving content doesn't get you as far as the stuff that's interesting to other people. So if you can, when you're thinking about social, think about what your recipient wants to see. They don't want to see that you put in a new cash register system. They want to see that you may have a new product offering and here's what it is, or they may want to see your team enjoying the area or enjoying the company. Just something that's really engaging. We keep our clients on 2 tracks. The marketing track, which we'll usually put together a posting plan, meaning anything that they really need to get the news out, and that's usually a little bit more formal. And then the engagement track, and here are the things that you might want to talk about, and we categorize them and say, for a client we have in Flagstaff, for example, we'll say, we need to talk about Flagstaff and things to do there and live like a local and all of this, not just, here's our new house for sale, and here's the, all of these things and the floor plans and all of that. So we'll have those things because that's what they're paying us to do. But then we research and find out all the stuff that's going on in Flag so that we can help them, tell the story of Flagstaff. And that's the stuff, when we go back and look at our analytics, which we highly encourage you to do, and Jenny, I think you're talking about analytics too, the stuff that they're clicking on the most, they'll do a real quick look at a new house or a floor plan, but then you can see watch where they've done with all the Flagstaff news and the arts and the snow and the weather report and that kind of thing. So the engagement stuff gets a lot of traction.
I think there's also a really powerful element of having a brick and mortar or community that your business is based around. So for example, in downtown Scottsdale, obviously you guys have a lot of neighbors and businesses next door, and that's a really powerful element for social media because you have the opportunity, like Michelle was saying, like you're putting engagement pieces out there, but you're saying, hey, our neighbor Sip is, running happy hour or things like that. So you can partner with other businesses in the community. You've got the opportunity when there is, fabulous events downtown here to say, hey, if you're coming by to check out, the art walk, make sure you stop by and mention the special code or whatever you have in place, and let us know, because that's also a way to track back that they saw that on social media. And it's just a really cool thing to integrate that together, because a lot of times for just solely online businesses that I work with, they don't have that connection of knowing who their neighbors are. But if you're partnering with someone else for a promotion, or you're just saying, hey, you're reminding people, hey, get out of your house today and come down and see us. Because remember, we all have a lot of things we could be doing. Let's be honest, some days I'd rather just sit at home. But if you give me a compelling reason to say, yeah, I should come down and check out your tea shop, or I should come try this amazing new thing, and oh, did you see this? So it's a cool opportunity to get people coming back, I think, too.
Well, it seems like sharing information, not just about your business, but about your neighbors and your community is a great way to keep people engaged. Obviously, add some additional marketing messages, but it also seems like it could be a way to help gain new followers. Because if you're talking about SIP and they've got a great following, they may start to show interest in your business. What are some other ways that you can possibly increase followers if you're starting out a little slow?
Besides buying.
Oh, that's the one I was going to start with. Actually, I have a client right now based in Scottsdale, and she goes, full disclosure, I bought followers on Facebook. And I said, oh boy, okay, thank you for letting me know. That's why our Facebook analytics all say things like, Africa and countries where they don't even have customers purchasing. And that's really made a huge impact on our traction on Facebook, for example. So I would say don't buy followers. It might be short-term, hurrah, you've got followers, but remember, you want quality followers and not quantity of them. If you've got 5 super engaged followers and they're purchasing, they're coming by to see you, I take that any day over 5 million who aren't doing anything. So just know, be authentic. Like we were saying with the partnerships, yes, there is a strategic thing when you're looking at engaging with other businesses. It's good karma, but it's also good because then you're getting in front of their community of, oh no, hundreds of other followers. So it's funny how that works. But just be authentic, and when you're asking people, and take advantage of opportunities in your other marketing efforts to build your followers. So if it's in your e-blast, having reminders, your sig file, and your email, having a sign up in your shop saying, hey, you love this coffee, use our hashtag, Instagram it, things like that, to just get that reminder in front of people to say, oh, that's right, you're on social media, I wasn't following you. And then at the end of the day, hopefully, ideally, you get the people saying, hey, you should follow so-and-so on social media because they're really funny, they're awesome, they're local, great personality. So it does take a little bit of work, but there's ways to do that organically.
I would add to that, the sharing of other people's content could be construed as an implied endorsement, and be careful when you're doing that, but don't. I mean, it's like that fine line. Be generous with your sharing. Be generous with your social sites to the extent that the person's content that you're sharing. Try to stay out of the political thing, and you'll get more people trusting you, oddly, because politics can be, shocker, kind of polarizing. So if you're especially on Twitter, really engage with people, and retweeting, if you're going down the Twitter route, retweeting really interesting things brings other people following you. And when you're at an event like this, I tweet the nuggets that other people are saying, and I tag the folks who are saying it, and I do that all the time, to the extent that my boss now is like, I can always tell when you're at a conference because your Twitter feed goes crazy, and then all these people start tweeting your hashtag, and it's like, yes, this is how it works. So it's really important, I think, to do that. And on the buying side of things, if you really do need to start up your Twitter by buying, don't. It's a waste of money. The people that you're gonna get are, like Anna said, they're in Africa. We had cleaned up a company in Boise, Idaho's Twitter feed, and they had worked with a guy to buy like I don't know, it was like 3,000 or 4,000, and they were like hookers and like all these horrible things. The smoke shops, not that smoke shops are bad for some people, but they are. You know, for this, this was a spa. The company that we were promoting was a spa, and they had hookers. So we had to clean that up. So we unfollowed all of these people and that were there, and ended up with this one. Sadly, we ended up just starting a whole new Twitter because they started the wrong way, and the cleanup takes a lot of time. Contacting people that you really admire in a Twitter environment and saying, please follow me back because I really want to have this dialogue with you, because you can't direct message someone on Twitter unless they're following you back. So that's kind of interesting too. So there are organic ways. On your email, you all have emails, I hope, with your company names and not Gmail. If you do, in your signature, put a link to your social sites in there, and you can do that with the bug, the little icon. Or just, you know, mine's @ShelbyO, so I'll put @ShelbyO, and now we've got the little bugs that we have. So do that. A lot of the clients that we work with in the hospitality space, like TripAdvisor and Yelp are super important, and we spend a significant amount of time helping to manage review sites, Google reviews, and there's one now called Pissed Off Consumer. So they're all over the place, but on the customer service side, so when you're trying to build up your following, just put that, like Anna said, put it everywhere. You know, because people need reminding. You know, we're a very distracted society, and we need reminding that you're on Twitter, you're on Instagram, and just put it everywhere that's in their faces to remind them. Ask them, hey, follow me. It's okay. It's not embarrassing. Just do it.
Ladies, thank you for some great advice and a few warning labels on social media as well of things to kind of avoid. I think that's all good advice. In the interest of time, we're going to wrap up so that we